It had been 4 days since Ethan Campbell last saw another soul. He had come to these woods for peace, not trouble. A former paramedic burned out from years of emergency calls, he found solace in nature's stillness. His log cabin, deep in the Washington wilderness, was the perfect escape. Until that night. Around midnight, as snow began to fall lightly, Ethan heard it, a low, deep growl mixed with something else. Something panicked, a cry, not human, but not purely animal either. He grabbed his flashlight and his coat. The wind howled outside. Most would have stayed indoors. But Ethan's instincts, the ones that had kept patience alive, kicked in again. Something was wrong. He followed the sound deeper into the trees. The snow thickened under his boots. The cries grew louder. Then, through the swirling white, he saw it. A large grizzly bear was collapsed near a fallen pine tree, its chest heaving. Ethan stopped cold, heart thumping. His flashlight shook in his hand. It was a pregnant female, her belly heaving in distress. Blood stained the snow beneath her. One cub already lay motionless beside her, lifeless. Another was trying to move, but too weak. Ethan should have turned around, should have backed away slowly. But then the bear lifted her head, eyes locking with his. She wasn't growling. She wasn't attacking. She was begging. Ethan dropped to one knee, staying several feet away. "I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered. The bear didn't move. His breath turned to fog as he scanned the situation. The cub inside her wasn't coming out. She was stuck in labor, exhausted, bleeding, minutes away from dying and losing the second cub with her. Without thinking further, he took off his backpack and reached for a pair of gloves he hadn't used in years. "I can't believe I'm doing this," he muttered. Step by cautious step, he moved closer. The bear shifted but didn't resist. He placed his hand gently on her side. She was burning up with fever. The first cub likely died hours ago. The second needed out now. He positioned himself behind her, keeping low, avoiding sudden movements. The snow fell harder. He reached in carefully, feeling for the cub. It was stuck. Ethan's fingers worked with the speed of memory, muscle memory from delivering human babies in ambulances and on bathroom floors. He adjusted the angle, pulled gently. The bear shuddered and let out a low groan. And then the cub slid free. Tiny, covered in fluid, not breathing. Ethan didn't hesitate. He wiped its nose and mouth, rubbed its side firmly. "Come on, little one. Breathe." Nothing. Another rub. Then a soft gasp. The cub let out a squeaky cry. Ethan laughed, not out of joy, but sheer shock. "You're alive," he whispered. He placed the cub beside its mother. She sniffed it, then nudged it close, curling her massive paw protectively around the tiny body. Ethan leaned back, heart pounding, chest heavy with emotion. He had just helped a wild grizzly give birth, alone, in the forest, in a snowstorm. But what happened next, he never saw coming. Ethan was still kneeling in the snow, breathless, when he felt it, the feeling he knew too well from years in emergencies. They weren't alone. The hairs on his neck rose. He stood up slowly, scanning the tree line. Snow fell quietly, muffling sound, but something felt off. Then he saw them. Eyes, 2, maybe 3 pairs. Hunters, not wildlife, men, watching. He reached instinctively for his flashlight and shined it toward the trees. The light caught metal, a scope. "Back away," he shouted. "There's a newborn cub." No answer. The bear let out a low growl, not at him, but toward the darkness. She sensed it too. Ethan turned to her. "They're after you." Then a loud snap, a gunshot. The bullet hit a nearby tree. The bear roared, rising slightly, but she was too weak to move fast. Ethan moved without thinking. He stepped in front of her, hands raised. "Stop! She's injured and has newborns! Back off!" More movement in the trees. Then a voice. "Step aside, we take her, and no one else gets hurt." "She's no threat," Ethan shouted. "She came for help. I delivered her cub." Silence. Then, to his shock, the bear nudged his leg gently from behind. She stood, towering, wounded, and placed herself between Ethan and the trees. And then something happened Ethan never thought he'd see. The hunters lowered their weapons. Another voice spoke, this one softer, uncertain. "He helped her?" More silence. Then the figures retreated. The forest returned to quiet. By morning, the bear was asleep again, her cub pressed against her chest. Ethan sat nearby, wrapped in his coat, watching them. He hadn't slept, couldn't. When sunlight broke through the trees, the mother bear stood slowly. She turned to Ethan, holding his gaze. Then, in a moment he would never forget, she stepped forward, pressed her head gently against his shoulder, and paused. No one would believe it. But he knew the truth. She disappeared into the woods with her cubs. Ethan watched them go, heart full, tears in his eyes. He came to these woods to escape people, but he found a connection, not with man, but with the wild. And for the rest of his life, whenever anyone asked why he lived alone in the forest, he'd smile and say, "Because once a bear trusted me with her life." Ethan stayed close to the cabin, expecting never to see the bear or her cub again. He kept the fire going, patched the claw marks on his porch, and tried to process what had happened. He had delivered a bear cub in the middle of a snowstorm. He had stood between her and rifles, and she had spared him, trusted him. It should have ended there, but the wild had other plans. On the third morning, just as the snow began to melt into soft patches along the forest floor, Ethan heard a sound. Not a growl, not a cry, but a soft, rhythmic shuffle of paws outside. He stepped out carefully and froze. There, at the edge of the trees, stood the mother bear, her coat cleaner, her eyes brighter, and beside her the small cub, now stronger, walking steadily beneath her shadow. Ethan didn't move. He didn't speak. The bear took 2 slow steps forward, then stopped. In her mouth, something hung loosely, a bundle of ferns and bark, almost like a crude nest. She placed it gently on the ground, then looked at him. For a full minute, they stood in silence. No sound but the breeze between them. Then, with a low grunt, she turned and walked away. The cub paused, looking back once, before vanishing into the woods with its mother. Ethan approached the bundle cautiously. What he found stopped his breath. Nestled within the leaves were the remains of the stillborn cub, the one Ethan had seen when he first found her. But it wasn't just left behind. It was wrapped carefully, purposefully. It was a gift, a burial, a message, something the bear wanted Ethan to witness, maybe even protect. That night, Ethan buried the cub beneath a tall cedar tree near his cabin. He carved a small wooden marker and placed a rock beside it. Not because the bear would ever return to see it, but because some moments in life deserve to be remembered, even if they're wild, even if they're impossible. Weeks later, when spring came and the snow melted completely, hikers spotted a mother bear with a young cub roaming near the riverbanks, calm, healthy, unbothered by their presence. One of the park rangers mentioned the sighting to Ethan during a supply run. "You know anything about her?" the ranger asked. Ethan just smiled and said, "Not much. But I think she's seen the best and worst of us. And somehow she forgave us."